Hello, hello, hello. All right, so welcome to day three of my push up challenge. We're getting progressively better. I have notes today. So, first off, every day or every 1 to 2 days, a veteran commits suicide. That's not the 22 that everybody's so excited about, but it's still significant. So, if somebody's having a problem, talk to them, refer them to EMS, or refer them to the VA or Army One Source. So, anyway, I was going to talk about PTSD today, but we'll do that one like tomorrow or some other day. Today, I'd actually rather talk about what's going on in the country right now. There are three, and what I'm actually referring to is the situation in the country. The riots, the anger, the racial tension. Everybody's like, okay, what's going on? What's all of this about? I thought we were post-racial and blah blah blah. Well, we're gonna break it down because there are actually three things that are the reason for all of this. The first thing, there are three things. There's black people, there's the media, and there's politicians. That's right. I said black people, the media, and politicians are largely responsible for this. Now, see, one of the problems with black people is they don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. Unfortunately, you're a grown up. So if you do something, you're responsible for what you did. That's how the criminal justice system works. That's how pretty much everything works. You only have to do three things in this country to stay out of poverty. You have to get a job. No, you have to graduate high school. You have to get a job and don't get pregnant before you're in a stable relationship. That's it. Generally, we call a marriage a stable relationship. I'm not saying you have to be married, but what does need to happen is you need to have a mother and a father available to help raise and take care of a child. People people don't seem to understand how important that is. That's what the cycle of poverty actually results from. The lack of there being two parents in a home to take care of a child. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what does that have to do with anything? Well, men and women are different. I know the media will try to convince you otherwise, but men and women are different. Men, we're more active, we're more authoritarian, we're more direct. Something goes wrong, it's like, get back in line. Women, they're softer, they're more sensitive, they're more understanding, and they pass that on to people. So if you have a father and a mother in your home, then you understand how to get the job done and how to be sympathetic and empathetic to other people. So what's been happening in black communities is because there are no fathers in homes, because for whatever reason they decide to run off or whatever, or women are just independent and don't want to deal with them. Because of these things, we're cranking out half people who know how to do half of what they're capable of doing. We're cranking out women who know how to be sympathetic and empathetic, but don't know what right looks like as far as a man is concerned. We're cranking out men who, again, they feel entitled to everything because their mother is there for them, but they don't actually know how to be a man because they were never taught. See how that works? That's why you need both roles in the home. The father shows you how to be a man. The mother shows you how to be sympathetic and empathetic. And they are also there to be an example of what right is supposed to look like. So let me get out of that one. That's part of the problem, though. So then these little half-formed people, they run off and they get pregnant by somebody. And, they run the streets with people and they do drugs and they sell drugs. And one of those guys, they run off and they impregnate a couple of other little half-formed people. And when they do this, usually the father of these, he'll get like three or four people pregnant, and then the father of this little half-formed person then gets picked up by the police on three strikes, or gets killed right about the time when they're all about to have their kid. So now we have three more children who are going to be half-formed because they have no father around. And then the cycle just sort of repeats itself. You know, Again, they pop out and they start looking for love in all the wrong places, and they have a kid they weren't supposed to have before they're supposed to have it, drop out of high school, yada yada yada, on and on and on, end up in the system. That's what we've been doing. And that's what we have to stop doing because white people are not responsible for that. And that's the other thing. When that happens, we blame that on white people. We decide, oh, this is happening because white people don't like us and they are racist. No, this is happening because you don't like you, because you're doing things that, put you in a bad situation. It's not about race. It's not about racism. It's about the choices you make. And that's what black people don't want to accept. They don't want to accept responsibility for their own choices and actions. Anyway, so yeah, bad results they come from poor choices, not from racism. Yeah. And then there's Black Lives Matter. There's a lot I could say about them, but what I'm gonna say today is they're full of shit. They were based on a lie from the very beginning, so I wouldn't put too much stock in that. Black Lives Matter, they're blaming the cops for doing their job. Like, I don't think you understand how it's like they don't understand how law enforcement works. Law enforcement works a lot like the military. They deploy their assets where their assets need to be deployed. So if there are a lot of cops in your neighborhood, it's because there's a lot of crime in your neighborhood, because they've been getting a lot of calls from your neighborhood. That is their job, to enforce the law. So when they arrest you, they are enforcing the law. When they target people in your community, they are enforcing the law. If people in your community were not committing crimes, they would not be targeted. So it's not racial profiling when they send people to your community because your community has crime in it. That's them trying to clean up your community. Because once they get the crime out of your community, then investors will want to come back in and build a business, or something other than a beauty salon or a liquor store. Then they'll come back in and they'll want to build a business, and that business will create more jobs, and then there will be more wealth in the neighborhood. But that can't happen because, again, every time something happens, we don't want to deal with what's really going on. We want to call it racism. The next thing I want to talk about is the media and how the media seems to feed into all of this. First of all, the media, they're trying to make their money just like everybody else. So they're going to report on what's going to get them ratings. That's how they make money, from their advertising kickbacks. The media is also very biased. The majority of the media is liberal, and Fox News is very, very conservative. Now, MSNBC and Fox News, they're not very truthful. They are on a huge slant. They're like less than 25% of the time they're telling the truth. CNN is about the most accurate. However, they're not that great either. They're at about 60%, to be honest with you. So a little more than half the time, a little less than half the time, they're lying. So the media is biased, and that's how they feed into stuff. So they're going to report on what's sensational. And also, they misrepresent the truth. Like, take that person who was related to that person that was killed in Milwaukee, like the riots were going on. They represent her like she's calling for peace. But then you see the entire clip and you hear that what she's actually saying is, don't burn down our neighborhood, go burn down the suburbs. Because why exactly? Why are you burning things down? Am I missing something? Nah, like, I have no sympathy for Black Lives Matter because they're race baiters. I have no sympathy for rock throwers because if you want to act like a damn animal, whatever happens to you is whatever happens to you. If you get burned, if you get stomped, if you get trampled, if you get killed, if you get shot, you earned it. And that's how it is. The last element of this are politicians. Politicians feed off of all of this nonsense. Hillary Clinton is doing an excellent job of it right now. She's probably going to win, to be honest with you. Now, that does not mean I support Donald Trump. He's also a human pile of garbage. Honestly, I'd rather neither of them got elected. I would rather they were like, I'm with Ben Shapiro. I would rather that they were left adrift somewhere for a month or two until this election is over and somebody who's legitimate could actually come and become, get elected. That's what I would prefer. I wish no ill on people, but I do want the best for them. And that's why I'm harsh on my own people. Like, a lot of people call me an Uncle Tom, a house Negro, and all that other shit because I tell them the truth. And it's not that I'm trying to trigger you. It's not that I'm trying to hurt your damn feelings. I'm trying to get you to understand that there's a reason that you're going through what you're going through. And racism is not an answer. You can't insert racism because you're poor. If you are poor, it is because you suck with money and no other reason. You suck with money and your parents suck with money. That is why you are poor. So if you stop making sucky decisions, you'll stop being poor. That's the bottom line. Stop doing stupid shit. Stop having kids before you're out of high school. Stop running off and not taking care of your kids. And then all these things will change. That's what has to happen. Now, about politicians, they serve their donors. So they get elected. They have no incentive to actually fix any of the problems that are wrong, because if they do, they can no longer leverage it as collateral. So they kind of have a vested interest in letting the situation remain the way it is, because then they can get elected again. And they can say that, oh, such and such created this problem, when really nobody really remembers who created what or who did what. So politicians, again, are just they're doing their job. They have but it's really beside the point, because the government cannot fix cosmic injustice. And this is what a lot of folks don't seem to understand. They seem to think that the government is responsible for me being taller than you, or you being shorter than me, or me being more intelligent and making better decisions. The government cannot correct for your own stupidity. You have to correct for your own stupidity. You also have to own and take responsibility for the things that you do and the choices that you make. So that's where we're at with that. That's why that situation is going on in the country right now. Because people believe that they have to advocate their personal responsibility, because the media feeds the narrative that there's some sort of a situation, and because politicians play off of the narrative as well. But anyway, now that that's out of the... Later on, we're going to talk more about Black Lives Matter later on, because that's some bullshit. But anyway, on to the main show. 22 push-ups, veterans, suicide, you know.